Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really getting into something fundamental for personal growth. Self-awareness.
Yeah, it's one of those terms we hear a lot.
Exactly. And it's not just, knowing your favorite color, it's deeper.
Yeah.
It's about understanding how that inner knowledge actually shapes your life experiences, your outcomes.
Spot on. We've been looking at Brendan Burchard's take on this, and our goal here, really, is to get under the hood. What is self-awareness, practically speaking, and how does it tangibly affect you?
Right. The real world stuff, not just theory.
Precisely, the consequences, as he puts it.
Okay, so let's dive into that core idea from Burchard. It's quite powerful. He basically says that the consequences in your life, relationships, career, just how you feel day to day, they directly reflect your level of self-awareness, like a mirror.
Yeah, that's a good way to frame it. He kind of splits it in two, right?
Yeah.
There's the awareness part, like your attention, being conscious of thoughts, feelings, and then there's self-mastery, which is the disciplined action, using that awareness to shape things, yourself, your results.
And the connection he makes is fascinating, the things happening now, and even what's likely coming up.
Yeah.
They aren't just random. He argues they're rooted in your current behavior, which comes from
Your self-awareness, or lack of it.
Right. So think about those times you feel, I don't know, super angry for no clear reason, or really frustrated.
Or stuck procrastinating. Yeah, we've all been there.
Definitely. Burchard suggests those are often signs, symptoms maybe of low self-awareness, a kind of disconnect inside.
Like you're reacting, but you don't really know the why behind the reaction. The consequences are like clues.
Yeah, clues. And if you're not self-aware, you can't read them.
Yeah.
He then draws this line back to our choices.
Exactly. He lays it out clearly. Consequences come from choices.
Okay.
And choices come from self-awareness.
Yeah.
So if you don't like the results you're getting,
You need to look at the choices and the awareness behind those choices.
you got it. It makes you reevaluate those past decisions, doesn't it? The ones you regret.
Totally. You look back and think, wow, I really wasn't tuned in back then, not to myself or the situation.
But the flip side is empowering. If you work on your self-awareness now,
No, you can make better choices going forward. Limit those negative consequences.
precisely, it's proactive, understanding yourself better to navigate better.
Now, he's really clear this isn't easy. It's not passive.
No, definitely not. You don't just wake up more self-aware. It takes effort, conscious effort.
He talks about mastering your mind. It sounds intense.
It has an edge, as he says. It's not just some soft concept. It's meant to drive real change.
Okay, so we see the link. Awareness shapes consequences. But how do we gauge our own level? He gives 3 key areas, like indicators.
Right. 3 consequences that act as sort of barometers for self-awareness. The first one is enjoyment of life.
Enjoyment. Okay, how does that work?
Well, his idea is that higher self-awareness actually leads to a greater level of enjoyment and more intensity in that enjoyment.
Because you know yourself better. You know what truly makes you happy.
Exactly. You're more aligned. You make choices that genuinely resonate. Plus, being aware helps manage expectations so you can appreciate the present more.
That makes sense. You're not constantly wishing things were different because you understand the reality and yourself within it.
And he has this great line. Something like, most misery is a consequence of missing a lot of signs along the way.
Ooh, I like that. Missing internal signs, like feeling.
And external ones too. Like think about burnout. It doesn't just appear overnight.
Right. There were probably whispers, then louder signs we just weren't aware enough to notice.
Yeah.
Or maybe didn't want to notice.
Yeah, ignored warnings.
Yeah.
Okay, the second consequence he links to awareness is connection with others.
Relationships. Okay, that seems intuitive.
It does. He argues the quality and depth of your connections are directly tied to how self-aware you are. And there's research backing this up, apparently.
Really? Like what?
Studies showing lower self-awareness often correlates with relationships that are, well, shorter, less deep, maybe lacking real empathy.
Wow. So being more tuned into your own stuff, emotions, needs, and also reading social cues better.
Helps you build stronger bonds. It fosters empathy, better communication. You understand the dynamics.
You understand yourself in the dynamic. Okay, that's huge. What's the third one?
Progress. Making progress in life.
Okay, this feels critical. Career, health, learning.
All of it. His point is blunt. Without increasing self-awareness, forget about sustained progress. It's basically impossible.
Why so absolute?
Because progress requires you to see where you're stuck.
Right.
To know what you need to learn or face or change about yourself. And that takes honesty. self-awareness.
He uses that athlete analogy, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's a good one. Athletes don't improve by accident. They need focus, measurement, feedback, adaptation.
All things that require awareness, you need to be aware of your performance to adjust it.
Spot on. Progress means noticing the roadblocks, understanding your role in them, and consciously changing course. Awareness drives that whole process.
Okay, so if it's this important, why aren't we all super self-aware? What gets in the way? He talks about distraction.
Yeah, and his angle on distraction is interesting. He sees it as avoidance
Avoidance of what?
of uncomfortable feelings, mostly, or difficult thoughts, things bubbling up into our awareness that we'd rather not deal with.
So we scroll or snack or binge watch.
Exactly. To numb out or sidestep what's really going on inside. It's a lack of awareness about where our attention is even going.
He gives that relationship coaching example, right?
Yes, the couple fighting. If one person literally can't recall what they were thinking or feeling right before the blow up,
That shows low awareness in that moment.
for sure. And what usually happens then? Blame. Pointing the finger outwards instead of looking inwards.
Which is a perfect lead-in to the indicators of self-awareness, or the lack of it. First up, attention and ownership.
Foundational. Being aware of where your mind is focused, how you're perceiving things, and crucially, taking responsibility.
Owning your actions, your emotions.
Yeah. He calls blame a huge red flag. If your go-to is blaming others, it's a strong sign you're not owning your part.
Because owning it requires awareness of your contribution. Being able to say, my attention was here, I felt this, so I did that.
Precisely. And he connects this to things like openness, curiosity, humility, that growth mindset idea versus being fixed. Open people tend to be more self-aware.
Makes sense.
Oh.
Okay, second indicator area. Affect. Our emotions, feelings, mood.
Right. Self-awareness includes knowing your emotional state, recognizing it, understanding it, and being able to regulate it.
So if you're often angry or down, but have no clue why.
That's a sign of limited self-awareness.
Yeah.
Your inner climate is a mystery. He even mentions the psychological angle,
Oh, yeah.
how a lack of mood awareness can be part of mood disorders. It's clinically significant.
Which really highlights why things like therapy can be so valuable,
Yeah.
getting that reflection.
Absolutely. Or just consciously checking in with yourself. He gives an example. Noticing you feel defeated and then consciously shifting your state to something more useful.
That's self-regulation, built on self-awareness, knowing your feelings, understanding them, managing them.
Yeah.
Okay, that's key. And the third indicator,
Intentionality.
meaning.
Being deliberate versus impulsive. Acting consciously towards goals rather than just reacting to whatever life throws at you.
So knowing why you're doing what you're doing, having clear intentions.
Exactly. Self-aware people tend to be conscious of their bigger goals and how their current actions line up or don't line up.
Whereas if you're just drifting, reacting, no clear sense of purpose.
It suggests lower awareness about your own desires and the path needed to reach them.
And really this whole conversation about awareness, effect, intentionality. It all ties back to what Bircher's getting at, right?
Yeah, fundamentally, it's about our ability to consciously strive, to achieve success however we define that.
Which is where he briefly mentions his platform, Growth Day, as a tool to help with this.
Right. As a resource for that daily practice. Things like tracking habits, getting prompts, accessing coaching. It's all aimed at fostering that inner work.
Building the awareness muscle day by day.
Yeah, developing streaks, using AI coaching tools, learning from teachers. It's about embedding personal growth into your routine, becoming more happy, grounded, whatever your goal is.
Through daily commitment. It really drives home that lasting change isn't usually a big bang.
No, it's consistent effort, daily practice, with self-awareness right at the core.
So summing up, it seems crystal clear. Self-awareness, knowing our thoughts, feelings, actions, isn't just navel-gazing.
Not at all. It directly impacts our enjoyment of life, our connections with people, and our ability to make real progress.
And it's active. We have to pay attention to our attention, our emotions, our intentions. Cultivating that awareness leads to better self-understanding.
And ultimately, more positive consequences in our lives.
Okay, so here's something for you, the listener, to chew on. Think about one area in your life right now where things aren't quite going the way you want, where you're seeing negative consequences. Now, honestly, ask yourself, how might your own awareness, or maybe a lack of it, a blind spot, be playing a role in that situation? And just think, what's one tiny actionable step you could take, maybe even today, to become just a little bit more aware in that specific area?